The Galactic Engineering Academy's central spire pierced the violet sky of Centauri Prime, its crystalline surface refracting the light of three suns into rainbow cascades. Inside the prestigious institution's quantum mechanics laboratory, Maya Chen stood alone among a sea of alien faces, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. She was the first human ever admitted to the academy, a fact that drew equal parts curiosity and contempt from her peers. Dr. Xylith, a towering Centaurian with silvery skin that rippled like mercury, stood at the front of the amphitheater. His four arms moved in perfect synchronization as he manipulated the holographic controls, bringing up images of various energy matrices. "Your final examination," he announced, his voice resonating with harmonics that made the air vibrate, "will test not just your knowledge, but your ability to apply it under extreme pressure." The other students, beings from across the galaxy with technology centuries ahead of Earth's, shifted in their gravity-adjusted seats. Some had multiple limbs, others existed partially in quantum states, and a few were pure energy beings contained in specialized fields. Maya felt acutely aware of her simple human form, clothed in the standard academy uniform that seemed to hang awkwardly on her frame compared to how it adapted perfectly to her classmates' exotic physiologies. "You will each be transported to the surface of Helios 9, Dr. Xylith continued, bringing up an image of a hellish landscape where rivers of plasma cut through fields of metallic crystal. Your task is to construct a quantum energy harvester capable of powering a small city. You have 1 hour." His mercury drop eyes fixed on Maya. "Some of you may find this particularly challenging." Whispers and clicking sounds of amusement rippled through the classroom. The Arcturian student to Maya's left, a being of pure light, pulsed with what could only be described as derisive laughter. "The human won't last 5 minutes in those conditions," it transmitted in thought waves that Maya's neural translator converted to words. Maya kept her expression neutral, though her hands clenched slightly under her desk. She had faced similar doubts throughout her life, when she built her first fusion reactor in her garage at age 12, when she developed a new theory of quantum entanglement at 16, and when she applied to the academy against all advice that humans weren't ready for galactic-level education. "Each of you will be provided with standard academy equipment," Dr. Xylith gestured, and a list of available tools appeared in the air before each student. Maya scrolled through them quickly, noting the quantum manipulators, void energy converters, and other devices that would be familiar to her alien classmates but were far beyond current human technology. "Professor," she raised her hand, drawing more whispers from the class, "may we use our own tools as well?" Dr. Xylith's skin rippled with patterns that indicated both amusement and curiosity. "You may use whatever primitive implements you wish to bring, Ms. Chen, though I fail to see how human technology could possibly contribute to a quantum energy harvester." Maya nodded, already formulating her plan. While her classmates would rely on complex quantum technology, she had spent her life learning to achieve remarkable results with limited resources. Her mind raced through calculations, remembering the principles she had discovered in her garage years ago. Principles that the galactic community had overlooked in their rush to develop ever more complicated solutions. As the class ended and students filed out to prepare for tomorrow's test, Dr. Xylith called Maya to his desk. "Ms. Chen," he said, his tone carrying the same harmonics that had initially given her headaches when she first arrived at the academy, "I feel obligated to warn you. No human has ever attempted something of this magnitude. Perhaps it would be better to withdraw now rather than face embarrassment." Maya met his mercury gaze steadily. "With respect, Professor, humans have a long history of doing things everyone said were impossible." She paused, then added, "Sometimes the simplest solution is the one nobody expects." As she walked away, Dr. Xylith's skin rippled with complex patterns that would have told anyone familiar with Centaurian expressions that he was experiencing an emotion somewhere between concern and intrigue. What he didn't know was that Maya had already begun solving the problem, her mind working through possibilities that no one in the galaxy had considered, precisely because they were too simple to occur to races that had long ago abandoned such primitive approaches. Tomorrow would either prove her people's worth to the galactic community or confirm every prejudice about humanity's limitations. Maya smiled slightly as she headed to her quarters to prepare. Either way, it was going to be interesting. The surface of Helios 9 made Earth's harshest environments look welcoming. Rivers of plasma carved glowing channels through fields of metallic crystals, while the binary stars overhead painted everything in harsh shadows of orange and blue. Maya stood with her fellow students at the designated testing area, each contained within their personal environmental shields, standard academy protection that even they admitted humans had earned the right to use. Beside her, X427, a crystalline being from the Andromeda Galaxy, was already unpacking an array of quantum manipulators that shimmered with extra-dimensional energy. The Arcturian light being had transformed itself into a complex matrix of pure energy, ready to directly interface with the quantum realm. Every other student wielded technology that would have seemed like magic to most humans. Maya reached into her small pack and pulled out what appeared to be ordinary tools: a hammer, some wire, and what looked like a simple crystal. The Methonian student nearest to her, a gaseous being contained within a sophisticated environmental suit, released a burst of methane that Maya's translator interpreted as laughter. "Those aren't even quantum-enabled tools," the Methonian observed. "How do you expect to harvest energy at the quantum level with primitive physical implements?" Maya checked the seals on her environmental suit before responding. "Sometimes the best way to understand quantum mechanics is to start with classical physics," she said, her voice calm despite the sweat already forming on her brow from the intense heat that penetrated even their shields. Dr. Xylith's voice resonated through their communication channels. "Your time begins now. Remember, you must construct a quantum energy harvester capable of powering a small city. You have 1 standard hour." He paused, his mercury skin rippling with anticipation. May the most advanced solution prevail. The testing area erupted into activity. The Arcturian light being immediately began weaving complex patterns of pure energy, creating what looked like a living circuit board in the air. X427's crystalline form refracted and split, working on multiple components simultaneously. The Methonian released carefully controlled bursts of its own substance, forming intricate gas-based computational matrices. Maya walked to the edge of the testing area, studying the flow of plasma in the nearby channels. She pulled out her hammer and approached one of the larger metallic crystals jutting from the ground. The other students paused briefly in their work to watch, incredulous, as she began carefully chipping away at the crystal's base. "Is she trying to build a primitive conductor?" One student transmitted to another. "That's not even zero-point energy manipulation." Maya ignored them, focusing on her work. She had spent months studying the composition of Helios 9's unique crystals, not just their quantum properties, but their classical physical characteristics. While her classmates sought to impose order on quantum chaos through brute technological force, she saw a different path. The crystal she selected had naturally formed in a perfect Fibonacci spiral, its atomic structure already aligned with quantum probability waves. As she carefully shaped it with her hammer, she thought back to her garage on Earth, where she had first discovered that quantum effects could be amplified through properly aligned classical structures. Sweat poured down her face as she worked, the heat becoming more intense as she moved closer to the plasma channels. Her environmental shield flickered slightly, struggling against the extreme conditions. The other students had positioned themselves farther from the plasma, relying on long-range quantum manipulation rather than direct interaction. An hour wasn't much time, but Maya had learned efficiency out of necessity. On Earth, she couldn't rely on unlimited energy or exotic materials. She had learned to work smart, to see solutions in simplicity. Now, as she carefully wrapped her wire around the crystal in a pattern that matched its natural spiral growth, she saw her classmates struggling with their complex devices. The Arcturian's energy matrix kept destabilizing in the intense radiation. X427's crystal manipulators were having trouble maintaining quantum coherence this close to the plasma flows. The Methonians' gas-based computations were being disrupted by the electromagnetic interference from the environment. Maya finished positioning her crystal array and began the final phase of her work. She pulled out what looked like a simple mirror, but was actually a quantum reflector she had built using principles she discovered while experimenting with old solar panel designs. As she aligned it with the crystal structure, she allowed herself a small smile. 20 minutes remaining, Dr. Xylith announced. His mercury eyes had been fixed on Maya's work, his expression unreadable, but his skin patterns showing increasing complexity, a sign of intense interest in Centaurian body language. Maya's classmates increased their efforts, their quantum manipulators humming with power as they tried to force order onto the quantum chaos around them. But Maya knew something they had forgotten in their rush to master quantum technology. Sometimes the universe already knows the best way to do something. You just have to learn to work with it rather than trying to control it. The first sign that Maya's approach might be more than just primitive foolishness came when her crystal array began to glow with a deep, resonant purple light. The color pulsed in perfect harmony with the nearby plasma flows, creating interference patterns that caught Dr. Xylith's immediate attention. His mercury skin rippled with rapid patterns of surprise and scientific curiosity. 15 minutes remaining, he announced, though his eyes never left Maya's setup. The other students were too busy with their own struggles to notice what was happening in Maya's corner of the testing area. The Arcturian's pure energy matrix had become increasingly unstable, its light fluctuating wildly as it tried to maintain quantum coherence in the face of Helios 9's brutal radiation. The HFY-427's crystalline form had developed stress fractures from the intense heat, forcing them to divert power from their quantum manipulators to reinforce their own structure. Maya worked steadily, her movements precise despite the sweat that now drenched her environmental suit. She had positioned her crystal array at exactly the point where 3 plasma flows converged beneath the surface, creating a natural quantum probability node. It was the kind of pattern she had first noticed while studying water eddies in a stream near her childhood home. Nature had a way of creating perfect geometries if you knew where to look. The human's crystal is actually affecting quantum field coherence, the Methonian transmitted to their nearby classmates, their gaseous form swirling with agitation. But that's impossible without a quantum initiator. Maya allowed herself a small smile as she made final adjustments to her quantum reflector. What her classmates didn't understand was that she wasn't trying to control quantum effects. She was harmonizing with them. The crystal's natural structure, combined with its precise positioning and her carefully calculated wire wrapping, created a resonance that amplified existing quantum fields rather than forcing new ones into existence. 10 minutes, Dr. Xylith announced. His skin now displayed patterns that hadn't been seen in the Academy in decades, the Centaurian expression of fundamental assumptions being challenged. The testing area had become a chaos of failing technologies. The Arcturian's energy matrix was collapsing in on itself, their attempt to directly manipulate quantum fields proving too ambitious in Helios 9's hostile environment. The HFY-427's array of quantum manipulators sparked and fizzled as the crystal being struggled to maintain basic molecular cohesion. The Methonian's gas-based computational matrices had been completely disrupted by the electromagnetic interference. But Maya's setup continued to pulse with that deep purple light, growing stronger with each passing moment. She had noticed something in her research that the others had missed. Quantum energy wasn't just about manipulation at the smallest scales. It was about understanding the connections between all scales, from quantum to classical, and back again. What exactly are you trying to achieve, Ms. Chen? Dr. Xylith asked, his harmonics carrying genuine curiosity rather than his usual condescension. I'm not trying to achieve anything, Professor, Maya replied, making one final adjustment to her reflector's angle. I'm letting the quantum field achieve itself. The crystal array's pulsing suddenly synchronized perfectly with the plasma flows, creating a cascade of quantum effects that her classmates' instruments registered with alarm. Energy readings spiked across all scales, But instead of the chaos that usually accompanied such events, Maya's setup maintained perfect harmony. 5 minutes, Dr. Xylith announced, though by now most of the other students had stopped their own efforts to watch what was happening in Maya's corner. The quantum reflector she had positioned began to fill with swirling patterns of light, not just reflecting but amplifying the natural quantum processes occurring around it. Maya had based its design on simple mirror mathematics, but applied at the quantum level. It was the kind of solution that seemed obvious once you saw it, but only if you were willing to look past conventional assumptions about how quantum technology should work. This defies all standard models of quantum energy harvesting. The Arcturian transmitted, their light form flickering with what might have been frustration or admiration. Maya checked her readings one last time. The energy output was already approaching the requirement for powering a small city, and it was still building. More importantly, it was stable. Her setup worked with the natural quantum fields rather than trying to impose artificial order on them. Sometimes, she said, more to herself than her watching classmates, the simplest solution is just to stop fighting against nature and learn to dance with it instead. The crystal array's purple glow had begun to spread, creating a stable quantum field that extended far beyond what should have been possible with such simple tools. But that was precisely why it worked. Its simplicity was its strength. While her classmates had tried to master quantum mechanics through brute technological force, Maya had found a way to invite it to work with her. The final minutes of the test transformed the hellish surface of Helios 9 into an impromptu amphitheater. Maya's fellow students had completely abandoned their failing projects, drawn to the extraordinary phenomenon unfolding before them. Her simple crystal array now pulsed with energy that defied their most advanced scanning equipment, yet remained perfectly stable. 2 minutes remaining, Dr. Xylith announced, his mercury skin rippling with patterns so complex they seemed to fold in on themselves, a sign of profound intellectual upheaval in Centaurian physiology. The Arcturian, their forms still flickering from their failed attempt at direct quantum manipulation, moved closer to Maya's setup. The energy readings, they're exceeding Academy standards by several orders of magnitude. They transmitted. But there's no quantum initiator, no field stabilizers, no probability matrices. No, Maya agreed, monitoring the growing energy field with nothing more complex than her modified hand scanner. Just the natural quantum processes that were already here, amplified through geometric resonance. The Methonian's gaseous form swirled in agitation. But that's not how quantum energy harvesting works. You need to impose order on quantum chaos, establish control parameters, maintain field coherence through active manipulation. Maya smiled inside her environmental suit. That's one way to do it, she said. But nature already knows how to maintain quantum coherence. Look at photosynthesis in plants, or the way birds navigate using quantum entanglement. Sometimes the best technology isn't about forcing control. It's about understanding what's already there. Her crystal array had begun to sing. There was no other word for it. The quantum resonance created harmonics that vibrated through the crystalline structures of Helios 9, producing otherworldly tones that seemed to echo from the quantum realm itself. The plasma flows nearby had shifted their patterns, aligning with her array in a dance of energy that defied conventional physics. 1 minute, Dr. Xylith called out, though by now it was clear the test was effectively over. Zix 427, their crystalline forms still showing stress fractures from their failed attempt, approached Maya's setup with cautious fascination. The energy output, it's not just stable, it's self-regulating. The quantum field is maintaining itself without any external control systems. Exactly, Maya said, making one final minor adjustment to her quantum reflector. Earth's technology may be primitive by galactic standards, but we've learned a lot about working with limited resources. Sometimes that means looking for solutions that already exist in nature, rather than trying to invent completely new ones. The final seconds ticked away as Maya's harvester continued to exceed all expectations. The purple glow had stabilized into a steady pulse that matched the planet's natural quantum frequency perfectly. Energy readings showed enough output to power not just a small city, but a metropolis, all while maintaining perfect harmony with the surrounding quantum fields. "Time," Dr. Xylith announced, his mercury eyes fixed on Maya's setup with an intensity that made his skin shimmer like a storm-tossed sea. "Ms. Chen, would you care to explain to the class exactly what you've achieved here?" Maya took a deep breath, suddenly aware that she was about to challenge centuries of established galactic science. Instead of trying to force quantum effects through technological manipulation, I created a resonance chamber that amplifies naturally occurring quantum processes. The crystal's Fibonacci structure acts as a quantum lens, while the wire wrapping creates a conductive pathway that matches the natural flow of quantum probability waves. She gestured to her quantum reflector. "This isn't just reflecting energy. It's creating a feedback loop that strengthens the natural quantum field coherence. The whole system is essentially just helping nature do what it already knows how to do, just more efficiently." The other students' reactions ranged from disbelief to dawning comprehension. The Arcturians' light form pulsed with rapid calculations as they processed the implications. The Methonians' gaseous form had become completely still, a sign of deep contemplation in their species. "But this goes against everything we know about quantum energy harvesting," one student protested. "All our advanced technologies are based on controlling and directing quantum effects." "Maybe that's why they require so much energy to maintain," Maya suggested gently. "We're constantly fighting against the natural flow of quantum processes instead of working with them. It's like trying to dam a river when you could just build a water wheel instead." Dr. Xylith moved closer to the crystal array, his skin now displaying patterns that hadn't been seen in the Academy's records, the Centaurian expression for a complete paradigm shift in understanding. "Ms. Chen," he said, his harmonics carrying a new tone of respect, "I believe you have just demonstrated something far more significant than a mere quantum energy harvester." The Academy's Grand Assembly Hall had never been so full. Word of Maya's breakthrough had spread through quantum communication channels across 3 galaxies, bringing scientists, engineers, and academics from dozens of advanced civilizations. They came to witness what Dr. Xylith had called a fundamental reshaping of our understanding of quantum energy manipulation. Maya stood on the presentation platform, her simple Academy uniform standing out among the exotic technological displays of fashion worn by the assembled beings. The crystal array from her test had been carefully transported from Helios 9, and now pulsed with that same deep purple light, its quantum harmonics filling the hall with an ethereal song that even the pure energy beings found beautiful. "What we're looking at," Dr. Xylith addressed the assembly, his mercury skin displaying patterns of profound academic excitement, "is not just a new way to harvest quantum energy. Ms. Chen has demonstrated a principle that challenges our entire approach to quantum mechanics." The Arcturian who had failed the test floated forward, their light form now stable and bright. "We've analyzed her design extensively," they transmitted to the assembly. "Its efficiency exceeds our most advanced systems by several orders of magnitude, yet it uses less than 1% of the resources we typically require." Maya stepped forward, her voice clear and confident. "The principle is simple, really. Earth's technology may be primitive by galactic standards, but that limitation forced us to look for elegant solutions. We couldn't brute force our way through quantum mechanics, so we had to understand it instead." She gestured to her crystal array. "Every advanced civilization here developed quantum technology by finding ways to impose control on quantum effects. But what if we've been thinking about it backward? What if the key isn't control, but cooperation?" The assembly hall erupted in a cacophony of discussions, transmitted in everything from light pulses to gravitational waves. The Methonian student who had mocked Maya's tools now released excited bursts of methane that formed complex mathematical equations in the air. "We've already begun adapting Ms. Chen's principles to other applications," Dr. Xylith announced, his harmonics carrying unmistakable pride. Early tests suggest this approach could revolutionize everything from faster-than-light travel to planetary terraforming. ZX-427, their crystalline form now healed, approached Maya. "We thought humans were primitive because they hadn't mastered quantum control," they chimed, their crystalline surfaces refracting light in patterns of respect. "We never considered that perhaps they had discovered something more fundamental instead." Maya smiled, remembering her garage workshop back on Earth, where she had first learned to see the patterns in nature that others overlooked. Sometimes the best way forward isn't to force your way through obstacles, but to find the path that's already there. The implications of her discovery rippled through the assembly like waves in a quantum probability field. Representatives from the Galactic Education Council were already discussing revisions to the standard curriculum, incorporating what they now called the Chen principle of working with natural quantum processes rather than against them. "Ms. Chen," Dr. Xylith addressed her formally, his skin displaying the rarely seen patterns of profound respect. "The Academy would like to offer you a position as head of our new Department of Harmonious Quantum Dynamics. We believe your human perspective could help us reconsider other areas where we might have overlooked simpler, more elegant solutions." Maya looked out at the assembled beings, creatures of light and energy, gaseous intelligences, crystalline entities, and dozens of other exotic life forms. Each had developed incredible technologies, yet here they were, ready to learn from what they had once dismissed as primitive human thinking. "I would be honored, Professor," she said, "but I have one condition." She paused, making sure she had everyone's attention. "I want to establish an exchange program with Earth universities, not just to teach humans about advanced technology, but to help your students learn about human approaches to problem solving." The assembly hall filled with expressions of agreement in 1,000 different forms. The Arcturian's light pulsed with enthusiasm. The Methonian released complex mathematical equations in gaseous form, and even the pure energy beings resonated at frequencies indicating strong approval. Dr. Xylith's skin rippled with what Maya now recognized as the pattern for profound optimism. "Perhaps," he said, his harmonics carrying through the hall, "this is the beginning of a new era in galactic science, one where we learn that advancement isn't just about developing more complex technologies, but about finding the wisdom to use simpler solutions when they're better." Maya touched her crystal array gently, feeling the quantum harmonics pulse through her fingers. She thought about her garage back on Earth, about all the young humans tinkering with simple tools and big dreams, seeing patterns that others missed. Maybe they weren't so primitive after all. Maybe they just had a different kind of sophistication, one the galaxy was finally ready to understand. The quantum field around her crystal array pulsed one final time, its purple light spreading through the hall like a dawn breaking over a new era of understanding between humans and their galactic neighbors. Sometimes, it seemed, the greatest breakthroughs come not from mastering the universe, but from learning to dance with it.